Hi, I'm Dan Summers. I'm Director of Emergency Management for Collier County, and it's a real privilege to be with you today as we start looking at June 1st and hurricane season this year. Kind of hard to believe that the fall has gone by so quickly and we're here getting ready for yet another season. I'm not going to get into any forecasting. As you know, any one storm can change how we respond and recover and how it impacts our family. We're going to keep a sharp eye on the tropics, obviously, and we'll see how it turns out. And we don't wish anything difficult on anyone, but we're hopeful that we have a season that is not impactful for us. This is the first opportunity we've had to share with you our new logistics center. This is a project that our Board of County Commissioners through surcharge efforts, surtax efforts, have helped us to become better prepared in Collier County. And for the first time, and we're one of just a few counties that now has a central receiving, storage, and distribution capability for disaster supplies and equipment to support our community. FEMA and the state can only go so far, maybe by delivering the commodities, but can't distribute the commodities to the community. So this central receiving area stays busy full-time receiving those goods and getting us at least a jump start on some supplies and equipment to get to the community while other resources are inbound. So we run quite a logistical operation now. To give you some examples, during previous hurricanes such as Irma, we moved 63 tractor trailer loads of supplies and equipment through this location. During COVID, we moved 1.8 million pieces of PPE gear through this warehouse operation to support the community. So having an emergency plan, a team, the communication resources, and now having a logistical warehouse location that we can take better care of our equipment, we can avoid the heat, the humidity, we can do more routine maintenance, keep our supplies clean and ready to go, stretch those limited dollars so that we get the maximum amount of life with the available resources to support our community during times of disaster. Behind me are things like bottled water with a 10-year shelf life. They're cots that go to the special needs shelter for the frail and elderly, some tarps in order to help protect some critical infrastructure if needed until emergency repairs or long-term repairs can be made. Generators for our shelters, for example. Those type of things that are so important to ride the storm out, we now have a place to do that, and we're very thankful to the board, the community, the contractors, our facilities management team, and my emergency management team who have spent many long hours in here individually moving supplies and equipment from various locations to centralize our inventory. Talking about getting ready for the season. For most of you that have been residents here, you know the drill. You got to be prepared, you've got to stay in contact, you've got to monitor and be ready to take action. A couple of key points that I've shared with our county employees. The insurance market has started to stabilize a little bit. Go back and reread your homeowner's insurance. Maybe revisit renter's insurance if you have it, or consider getting renter's insurance for your contents. Your insurance is your first line of defense, not the federal government, not the state government, not anything else right now, but your insurance is your first line. Maybe take some pictures, do an inventory of your current conditions at your home, and then post-storm, take pictures as well. So insurance review is job one. Job two is making sure that you've got an individual and family communications plan. We all have had cell phone challenges during these disasters, but texting works extremely well in most cases. So make sure that you've got a group text, maybe with family or friends. So that's one way to pass some messages while the cell phone networks are getting restored or rebuilt. And we've had great working relationships with all of the cell phone providers. We do know that they're working hard, and some situations when there are outages are caused by other supplies or equipment affected downrange, not necessarily in Collier County. Staying in touch also means making sure you're registered with Alert Collier. That's our ability to get notification messages to you. Yes, sometimes they are frequent, and we've talked with our friends at the National Weather Service, and during some of the previous hurricane events, folks got a little turned off by the number of notifications because of the number of radar indicated tornadoes. And we want to stress to you, as aggravating as that fourth or fifth alert may be, do not turn that alert off. The unstable weather during these hurricanes that can generate a tornado that about 30% of the time hit the ground and the rest of the time don't hit the ground. But that 30% that they do hit the ground could be your neighborhood, could be your community, and put your life in peril. So again, stay in touch, stay registered with Alert Collier. Collier County has worked really hard with its 311 app to put shelter information out there as available. Our website will have, Collier County website will have an emergency page. So again, another great way to stay in touch. Remember that during these storms, we don't want to be in a position to take any action during nighttime hours. As we see the forecast begin to develop and change, maybe forward speed escalate, maybe intensity escalate, you might be thinking that we might call that evacuation a little bit early. But we want to do all of those things during daylight hours. A recipe for getting hurt is to try to do some of these things at night. So again, understand we're going to try to do everything we can with the timing of the storm to take our preparedness actions, our protective measures during daylight hours. So know that that has some flexibility. Our nonprofits and our community have really stepped up the last couple of years with the help of the Community Foundation of Collier County. We now have a coalition working together as a disaster unit, if you will, sort of another component of our Emergency Operations Center, where our nonprofit organizations can do a whole lot more in disaster relief, in some cases a lot more than what FEMA or the state or even local government can do. And so the disaster dollars or the donations going to local human service groups like our Salvation Army and Red Cross and the Community Foundation, who provides additional funding support at no charge and manages those philanthropic efforts, has been a great way that we have been able to help families. And we do have about 24 families that are still putting the pieces back together from previous storms. I would also suggest to you that that individual and family action plan, and particularly your preparedness kit, whether you ride that storm out at home or you elect to evacuate, that you start thinking about a 96-hour level of supplies. We used to say 48 hours, we used to say 72 hours. As if we have greater storm surge or more rain pre-landfall, we have a much more vulnerable infrastructure than we have seen in the past. Not from anything that we're doing, but just the fact that we're growing. So a 96-hour disaster kit is what you need to be planning for. And now is a good time to start building that kit. You can go to our website, you can go to ready.gov, lots of information that's available for you to start building that kit. One other message to our businesses: we can't thank you enough for your assistance. We want you to stay in business after storm. Businesses need to work up their emergency plan. What is their continuity of operations? What happens if they are displaced? Can they get those records? Can they get their business back up and running? Our partners at the Chamber of Commerce, as well as our office, are always happy to help small businesses to find a way to give you some strategies to sustain operations and get back into business locally. Disaster recovery and debris cleanup is another area that we want to remind you, please be patient. It takes time to get our infrastructure put back together, get the roads clear. We've added more generators to our inventory to light up signals at intersections. Remember, if an intersection is dark, meaning that there's no traffic signals that are operational, that intersection becomes a four-way stop. And you've got to really slow down and pay attention because we're not used to those four-way stops at big intersections. Power outages. Always report your power outage. In most cases, if you're an FP&L customer or you're a Lee Co-op customer and you know the whole neighborhood is without power, you still go ahead and make that report because that will get your service location into the computer, and if something is missed, if your neighbors have power and you don't, having that ticket on file with FP&L or Lee Co-op will remind them, or the service technician if possible, to go back and make sure there's an opportunity to get service to your home or to your business. We have an awful lot of frail and elderly individuals in our community that may need our help. We ask that the frail and elderly work with their caregivers, work with their physician, work with their home health agencies to make sure that you have an action plan should you be electrically dependent or oxygen dependent. And we want you to be as self-sufficient with your family members or caregivers to the best of your ability. If you need assistance, we have a special needs registry. By contacting our office, we can get some information to you. You can register with our office, and we can do some follow-up phone calls with you to make sure that you have an evacuation plan, or if you are really in a bind related to transportation or in the need of oxygen at one of the evacuation shelters or the special needs shelter, we have a team that can work on assisting the frail and elderly. We sort of refer to that system as it's the lifeboat, not the love boat. So we're going to do the very basic, provide the basics and essential services to the best of our ability, but by no stretch is it going to be something as comfortable as being at home. Floodproofing. We have all now learned a very hard lesson about storm surge and storm surge prediction. Remember, a cubic yard of water, seawater, weighs almost a ton. And when you start thinking about rising water, the force, the weight, again, part of the reason that we want you to evacuate is not only to hide from the wind, but we want you to run from the water. And that's where we have injuries and or loss of life. So knowing your evacuation zone, respecting the storm surge potential is so important. If you're interested in floodproofing your home or providing some flood resiliency to your home, there's some things that you need to be very careful about. Sandbag programs are one thing, and they do in fact help. But if you're looking at hard floodproofing, such as aluminum or other pieces of other material where you're actually blocking the doors from floodwaters, you need to stop and talk to your local building code official. There's real issues associated with hard floodproofing, and especially we don't want you to stay home while you're trying to dry floodproof your home. There is that situation where you might get trapped in that house. So if you're looking at floodproofing, understand floodproofing is one component, but you still need to evacuate. It's not that situation where you think you can stay at home because you've put floodproofing hardware or equipment or fixed structures for floodproofing. You still need to evacuate. So lots of information out there, a lot coming forward as we move through the season. We learn a little bit more about what the forecast may bring, but Resources are thin nationwide related to disaster. FEMA right now has close to 1,000 disasters open. There are obviously lots of activity that are pulling manpower and resources everywhere from Hawaii to the floods and the wildfires in the Midwest. We're going to do our very best locally to be as efficient as we can, and we will continue to rely on support from our state and federal partners. But the more we can be self-prepared or self-sufficient, the more prepared we are, the more that we can help our neighbor. The fact is that we can have a little less resilience. We can have more resilience in our operation and also not have to call on our federal and state partners for quite as many missions. As we've seen as many as 47 counties in Florida impacted at one time from one storm. So there's a lot on our plate and there's a lot on your plate in terms of preparedness for this season. Last but not least, check us out on the website, see what's out there. If our office can be of some assistance to you, please don't hesitate to call. Let's stay ready, let's stay safe, let's stay in contact, and we'll all work together and put Collier County, continue to have Collier County as a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.